Welcome to Truth Report, where we peel back the layers of manufactured narratives to expose the raw truths shaping our world. Tonight, we're looking past the headlines that distract and into the systemic failures and power plays that truly dictate events, from tragic accidents to global power shifts.
Indeed, Alex. We're often fed carefully curated information. Our mission, as always, is to connect the seemingly disparate dots, revealing the beneficiaries and the victims in a complex web of corporate greed, political maneuvering, and a media landscape often unwilling to ask the difficult questions. Let's get started.
We begin with a horrific tragedy out of Southeast Asia. Al Jazeera reports at least 8 people killed in Bangkok after a freight train slammed into a public bus. On the surface, it's a devastating accident, a moment of chaos caught on camera. But accidents like these rarely happen in a vacuum, Maya.
Exactly, Alex. While the immediate focus is on the collision itself, the deeper investigation must question the underlying infrastructure and regulatory oversight. Thailand's rapid development has often outpaced its investment in safety standards for its public transport systems, particularly in railways. This isn't just bad luck, it's a symptom of systemic neglect.
Neglect, or perhaps deliberate cost-cutting in the freight sector. Who owns that freight line? Are corners being cut on maintenance schedules, or even driver training, to maximize profits? When public and private transport intersect with deadly consequences, we must always ask if the drive for efficiency is prioritized over human lives.
And who pays the ultimate price? The working-class citizens reliant on public buses and their families. Meanwhile, the corporations operating these freight lines often face minimal accountability, shielded by complex legal structures or weak regulatory enforcement. This tragic incident reflects a broader pattern in many developing economies.
We've seen similar patterns globally, where infrastructure crumbles, and safety protocols become secondary to profit margins. Is there corruption in the inspection process? Are officials turning a blind eye to dangerous conditions? This isn't just about one train crash, it's about a government's responsibility to its people and the real cost of unchecked industrial expansion.
This incident, as reported by Al Jazeera, serves as a stark reminder that behind every fatality count are unasked questions about accountability. The mainstream media often stops at reporting the what, but Truth Report demands to know the why and who benefits from a system that allows such preventable deaths to occur.
Moving from local tragedy to global power plays, Consortium News this week ran a fascinating piece, Hitting a Chinese Wall, describing Donald Trump's recent visit to China. The headline suggests he was schooled by Xi Jinping in what global stability looks like. This contradicts the usual narrative of a strong-arming America, doesn't it, Maya?
It absolutely does, Alex. Consortium News, known for its critical foreign policy analysis, points to a significant shift. The idea that Trump, with his brash, expansionist rhetoric, was taught a lesson by Xi Jinping suggests a potent display of Chinese diplomatic and economic influence. This isn't just about a trade deal, it's about the erosion of U.S. unilateralism.
Schooled implies a power dynamic where China is not merely reacting to U.S. demands but actively shaping the discourse on international relations. What does global stability mean from Beijing's perspective? It's likely a call for a multipolar world, challenging American exceptionalism and projecting China as a responsible global power, despite its internal issues.
And this is precisely what the mainstream corporate media often misses, preferring the simple U.S. versus China boxing match narrative. Consortium News dares to suggest that the U.S. might not be calling all the shots anymore. This signifies a more complex, perhaps uncomfortable, reality for Washington and its allies.
The true beneficiaries here might be nations seeking an alternative to U.S. hegemony, while those who lose are proponents of a unipolar world order. This isn't merely political maneuvering, it's a fundamental reordering of international relations. The White House might spin it as a constructive dialogue, but the implications are far deeper.
The article hints at a crucial lesson being learned by the American administration, that global stability today requires collaboration and respect for diverse interests, rather than confrontational demands. This shift, if true, could redefine global alliances and economic pathways for years to come, moving beyond simplistic Cold War paradigms.
Turning our attention to a different kind of crisis, the South China Morning Post reports a devastating Ebola outbreak in Congo, with the death toll reaching 80 amid constant burials. This isn't merely a health emergency, it's a stark reflection of global inequalities and the vulnerability of populations in conflict-ridden regions.
Indeed, Alex. While the virus itself is deadly, the rapid spread and high death toll are exacerbated by underlying factors, a crippled healthcare infrastructure, political instability in the Ituri province, and widespread poverty. These conditions create a perfect storm, making containment efforts incredibly challenging for health workers.
This tragic cycle of disease and death in resource-rich nations like Congo often links back to colonial legacies and ongoing exploitation. The scramble for minerals, like cobalt crucial for our electronics, fuels instability, displaces communities, and diverts resources away from vital public services like healthcare. Who benefits from this chaos?
Not the Congolese people, that's for sure. The beneficiaries are often external corporations and their local proxies, who profit from the chaos, operating with fewer regulations and less oversight in unstable environments. The human cost, however, is immense and largely ignored by global powers unless it threatens to spread beyond Africa's borders.
The constant burials described by locals underscore a profound failure of international solidarity and investment in public health systems where they are needed most. This isn't an isolated incident, it's part of a broader pattern where health crises disproportionately impact vulnerable populations, often far from the global spotlight.
The international community's response, while often well-intentioned, frequently fails to address the root causes of these recurring outbreaks. Until we tackle systemic issues like resource exploitation, governance, and equitable access to healthcare, Congo and other similar nations will remain trapped in this devastating cycle.
From devastating outbreaks to sustainable solutions, Al Jazeera's opinion piece highlights a critical path forward for Africa. Amid the fertilizer crisis, Africa has a chemical-free option, agroecology. This offers a powerful counternarrative to the industrial agriculture model, Maya.
It's a vital intervention, Alex. The fertilizer crisis isn't just about supply chain disruptions, it's a symptom of Africa's over-reliance on external, often expensive, chemical inputs for food production. This dependence ties African farmers into a global system that often works against their long-term sustainability and food sovereignty.
This crisis benefits the multinational agrochemical corporations who control the market, keeping African nations in a perpetual state of dependency. Agroecology, as Al Jazeera suggests, represents a radical shift, empowering local farmers, nurturing soil health, and building resilience against volatile global markets.
Yet, despite its proven benefits for both yields and environmental health, agroecology struggles for widespread adoption. Why? Because it challenges the powerful lobbying efforts of these chemical giants and the established agricultural policies pushed by international financial institutions. It demands a decolonization of food systems.
The mainstream agricultural narrative, often influenced by these powerful corporations, often dismisses agroecology as inefficient or outdated. But the truth, as this Al Jazeera opinion piece argues, is that it's a sophisticated, climate-resilient approach that puts power back into the hands of communities, not corporations.
Investing in agroecology is not just an environmental choice, it's an economic and social justice imperative. It ensures food security on Africa's own terms, rather than subjecting its people to the whims of global commodity prices and the agendas of foreign agricultural powers. This is true liberation for its farmers.
Finally, we turn to the world of sports, often seen as a harmless distraction. But even here, the patterns of power and profit are undeniable. Al Jazeera reports Robert Lewandowski is set to leave Barcelona, his mission complete. On the surface, it's a standard transfer, but what's the real story behind the beautiful game, Maya?
Mission complete is a convenient narrative, Alex, but the truth in modern football is almost always about money. Barcelona, famously riddled with debt, is constantly performing financial acrobatics. Offloading a high-earning veteran, regardless of his performance, is often a cold, hard business decision masquerading as a mutual parting of ways.
Exactly. Players like Lewandowski are not just athletes, they are assets, commodities in a multi-billion-dollar global industry. Their loyalty is often tied to contracts, and when those contracts become financially burdensome, or a new asset is desired, the narrative of a player's mission suddenly concludes. Who truly benefits? The club's balance sheet, perhaps.
And let's not forget the agents, the endorsement deals, the complicated ownership structures that pull the strings. The romantic ideal of a player dedicated to a club often clashes with the ruthless financial realities of global football. Fans lose a beloved icon, while the business side of the club churns on, prioritizing profit over sentiment.
This sports story, seemingly trivial, mirrors broader capitalist structures. It's about the commodification of talent, the constant pursuit of profit, and the public relations spin that sanitizes harsh business decisions. We see it in every sector, where human contribution is ultimately valued by its market price.
The myth of sporting purity, where passion trumps profit, is carefully constructed. But Truth Report understands that even on the pitch, the same power dynamics, the same financial interests that influence our politics and our economies, are always at play. It's a microcosm of global capitalism, played out under stadium lights.
From train crashes rooted in systemic neglect, to global power shifts challenging U.S. dominance, to health crises exacerbated by exploitation, and the cold business behind our beloved sports, the threads of power, profit, and accountability run through every story.
These aren't isolated incidents. They are interconnected symptoms of a world where economic interests often dictate policy, and public narratives often obscure the deeper, uncomfortable truths. We must demand transparency and accountability from those in power.
So, what can you do? Question everything. Demand answers from your leaders. Support independent journalism that isn't afraid to challenge established narratives. Your voice, your choice to seek truth, is the most powerful tool we have against the manufactured reality.
Stay informed, stay critical, and together, we can continue to unveil the truth. Thank you for joining us on Truth Report. Good night.